All right, everyone. Good evening. My name is Daron. My call sign is K1DBC. You should see on my camera, you should see my face as well as my screen. The quality should be okay. If it degrades to the point of not being readable at some point, let me know and I can just share my screen. But good evening. This is the Elmer session. It begins at 1800, 6 p.m. Mountain Time. It's just a general Q&A session. If you have any questions about ham radio, please let us know. We have we also have a ham learning net on Wednesday nights, 7:30 p.m. on the air. We're also on YouTube and groups.io, so you can visit us over there and see past nets, YouTube videos of past nets, as well as questions and topics we've spoken about. So this is not a net, though, specifically. You don't need to check in. You don't need to be a ham radio operator. If you don't see my screen, you should, if you look at the bottom right corner of your Google Meet, you'll have the 3 dots. If you select that and select Change Layout, you can select Spotlight, and it should show me, hopefully. So if not, you should be able to select me in the list here, I believe, and it should show this. With that, though, I'll open up. Anyone have any comments, questions, anything you'd like to bring up for the Elmer session this evening, please let us know. You can type it into the chat if you'd like, or you can go over the voice audio as well. Just make sure you guys can hear me, correct?
Yep, you're loud and clear, Jerome.
Perfect, no problem. Sounds good. Okay. I guess we can go over. There was somebody, Troy KF0AFQ was looking to borrow a LMR400 crimping tool. He was asking a couple days ago. He has a friend that has it, but just didn't want to make the drive if possible. Not sure if anyone on here has an LMR400 capable crimper, but that's something we're looking for. I can go over. Feel free to jump in at any time, please. I can go over our last learning net, what we were speaking about there. Speaking about hotspots, CCARC has some directive in there and some digital learning nets. Let's see, there's a question in the chat here. Craig's looking to find a UHF VHF splitter to share the same antenna with 2 radios. I've heard of something like that. Anyone off the top of their head know about a splitter you could use 1 antenna with 2 radios? I'd imagine you should be able to even transceive at multiple times as long as you're on different bands. But anyone on that, go ahead.
He's looking for a duplexer, and I can't remember what the reverse of a duplexer is. I'll look it up here on HRO.
It's still a duplexer. He just wires it backwards.
Okay. So yeah, so thank you. This is Craig. So duplexer. So thought being to protect the non-transmitting radio from the transmitting radio.
Sorry, repeat that one more time.
I was just going to say the thought being, so if it's a duplexer, thought being to protect the non-transmitting transceiver from the one that's transmitting. So the thing I was thinking is that if I could share an antenna, but I don't want the transmitting radio to feed into the non-transmitting radio.
Are you talking about 2 separate frequencies, or are you talking about having 2 radios, say, on 2 meters?
Well, they could be Well, UHF and VHF. So it could be one radio on UHF, one radio on VHF, but sharing the same antenna, not necessarily transmitting at the same time, but at least being able to receive at the same time, and one of them being able to transmit without affecting the other radio or hurting it.
Okay, a duplexer is not what you are looking for then. A duplexer splits based upon frequency. In other words, a VHF and a UHF radio sharing the same antenna. Or an antenna, a UHF VHF radio having a UHF antenna and a VHF antenna. It's totally band split. I am not familiar with anything that would allow you to share the same antenna on the same band at the same time.
Okay, thank you. Well, I preface this that I live in an HOA neighborhood, and I've got a really good spot for a X300 diamond radio or antenna, and I don't really have another spot for another antenna. So trying to figure out how I could maybe share the same antenna with different radios, but protect one radio from the I don't want, if I'm so I've obviously seen splitters, but the thought being if I was to have a splitter and transmit on one radio, it would be too much RF to the other radio.
If you're on the same band, it's not going to work.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thought I had as well. So I wasn't sure if there was something that could basically split the antenna without an actual one of those antenna where there's the switch where you can switch between antennas and maybe reverse it, but where you could actually have both radios able to share the same antenna somehow. So,
are you trying to monitor at the same time, or are you just trying to switch between the two?
Well, the thought being is to be able to monitor between them, but to independently transmit. So if I was receiving on one and want to transmit on one, then it's not going to affect the other.
Yeah, the only way that's going to happen is if you just have a manual coax switch between the two.
Okay, that's what I was afraid of. Okay.
That's why, back when the days when we had separate transmitters and receivers, on the same antenna, you would have a coax switch it was a relay that would flip one to the other, when you would hit transmit.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right.
There is one approach you could use, but you have to be extremely careful about it, because if you're like me, you would mess up every dang time. And that is, the receive antenna does not need to be quite as fancy as the transmit antenna. It doesn't need necessarily too much in impedance and everything else. So you could theoretically switch the output to the transmit antenna between the two radios, and the radio that was not connected to your main antenna could be going off to a receive antenna only.
Okay, so you could do an antenna splitter or a switch between both of the receive and transmit.
Right. But what will bite you, because I'm human and it would bite me, I guarantee, is that you would grab hold of the mic on the radio that was connected to the receive only antenna and try to transmit.
Right. Yeah, I could do that too.
I mean,
Thanks, guys. Yeah, there was a link I was looking for, and it was right there in front of my face. But this was a link that I had seen recently. You can use a software-defined radio as a PAN adapter with an automatic antenna switcher. So I kind of got out of that conversation a little bit, but I think it might be kind of what you guys were speaking about there a little bit as well.
Okay. PAN adapter with an automatic antenna switcher. Okay.
I thought I saw something a little bit more detail. I'll try to have to find it here. But yeah, great conversation here. Yeah, good guys.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, well, I'll look into that. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Okay. Anyone else on that, or anything else you'd like to bring up for the conversation here? Let us know. All right. Let's see here. This week, yeah, we were speaking about digital nets a little bit. There is an HD net if you have a DMR or any sort of D-Star, AC System Fusion, P25, any sort of HD radio. There is a net that takes place Tuesdays at 7:30 p.m. or 7 p.m. I believe, and you can chime in on the air if you want. You can check in online and see if you have any questions about the HD radio. Plenty of info over on Colorado8digital.net here.
Hey, Doron, I just put a reference. That's what I was trying to articulate. If you could click on that link and bring it up, and
yeah,
we can look at what a diplexer is.
I accidentally just closed and reopened Meet, and it deleted my chat. Can you resend that once more? Sorry. Sorry, did you hear me, Jeff? Oh, there we go. Perfect. Okay, thank you. All right, and again, if you've recently joined, I'm sharing my screen a little bit differently this evening. If the quality is too rough, let me know, and I can change it back to normal. But for now, you should hopefully be able to see what I have on the screen here, a difference between a Diplexer and Duplexer. Diplexer is a 3-port passive device that allows 2 different devices to share a common communications channel. It consists of 2 filters, low pass, high pass, and or band pass. At different frequencies connected to a single antenna. In the figure below, signal A at frequency A enters the diplexer and passes through filter A to the antenna. Signal B at frequency B passes through filter B to the same antenna. Both the signals need to be at different frequencies by a significant percentage so that filters can easily sort them. Yeah, that's right. Okay, perfect.
So in this scenario, if I had one radio on VHF and one on UHF, would that probably work for what I'm thinking about doing? Or?
Now the duplexer would handle that.
Okay. So the diagram there shows 2 signals, signal A and signal B, on one antenna with a diplexer.
So that's what he was just talking about, was basically using bandpass filters to accomplish that. I thought that's what you were talking about trying to do.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. So
yeah.
As long as
if you're using VHF and UHF, different transceivers, if you scroll down and read the duplexer description there, Doron.
Sure, yeah. A duplexer is a 3-port device that allows the transmitter and receiver to use a single antenna while operating at the same or similar frequencies. So I guess just right there, that doesn't sound like what he's trying to do. It sounds like he's trying to use on separate frequencies, or with greater difference. But a duplexer is a device that allows 2-way communication over a single channel by isolating the receiver from transmitter while transmitting a pulse and isolating the transmitter from receiver while receiving a pulse, allowing them to share the same antenna. In a duplexer, there is no direct path between the transmitter and receiver. It can be thought of as a circulator, i.e. the signal from port 1 is routed to port 2, and the signal from port 2 is routed to port 3. And port 1 and 3 are isolated from each other.
Yeah, because I used to have a fusion repeater here at my house, and I had Duplexer with it. But like you said, the transmit and receive side of it was different.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the circular aspect is okay. So you got a VHF on one port, transceiver on one port, and a UHF transceiver on the other port. When one is in transmit, it circulates to the antenna for output, and it circulates to the UHF to receive. So does that make sense? I mean, it's a little confusing.
Yeah, I think that the Diplexer, because you can have two different transmitting signals on the same antenna that it filters between them, so that there's so the thought I had is that if I was transmitting on UHF and had another radio on VHF, that the signal would not be fed back into my VHF transceiver, because my thought would be that would damage it.
Yeah, and that's correct. Yeah.
Okay, so the Diplexer, that's, I think. Okay, well, thank you. I think this gives me a path to research. So
Okay. Perfect.
appreciate it.
And all it takes is money.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a little radio rich and bank account poor lately on stuff. So.
Well, if everybody help me remember to start the recording when we start the presentation tonight.
Yeah, let's bring this up here.
So I just want to add, I'm W0TXDRC. I'm Craig. I've been a member of the DRC for a while, but I haven't joined a whole lot of meetings. And but I have followed you guys a little bit. So it's nice to join you guys tonight. I appreciate your help.
Perfect.
Yeah, welcome, Craig.
Yeah, welcome. Okay, all right. Let's see here. If you've just joined us, this is the Elmer session for the Denver Radio Club. We started at 6 p.m. and we'll end at 7 p.m. Just a general Q&A, ham radio, electronics, engineering. We have a groups.io page, Ham Learning Net, where we post videos and topics from our recent nets. So if anyone has any comments, questions, please let us know. You don't have to be a ham radio operator. Go ahead. You can post something in the chat if you like, or have a voice question. Please let us know. Yeah.
Hey, Doran, I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you. Yeah, go ahead, Doug.
Okay, I have an antenna up in my attic, and I have a LMR400 cable coming down into my office. And it's going to a coax switch. And I wanted to, I guess I wanted to know if it's normal or common to create a small coax, like a patch cable that's more flexible. So, I have the LMR400 is very stiff, so it's a 55-foot run. But I was wondering, would it be okay to kind of put maybe a 3 foot of, an RG58 or some thinner coax cable that's still 50 ohm to kind of make the connection from the LMR400 to my radio?
Yeah, I'd recommend going RG8 or a Mini 8, but I wouldn't go to 58. The Mini 8 would probably work.
Okay, so it's called Mini 8?
Yeah, it's a smaller diameter. And RG8 is almost a half an inch, and the Mini 8's, I don't know, a little bit bigger than a quarter inch. That's what I usually use for patch cables.
Okay.
And it's common to bring LMR into a patch panel and then go out, with patch cables.
Great, thank you.
Doran, do you have something you can bring up that would show the difference between Mini 8 and it's RG8X, I guess is what it's actually termed, versus RG8?
Right, RG8X is how you'll find it.
Okay, great.
Okay, perfect.
And you're fine using that because you're running a very short run of it, so the losses will not be significant.
Okay, I guess that's kind of what I was hoping. I just didn't want to nullify my investment in the LMR400, which I thought I was doing the right thing. I have the N-type connectors. I just didn't want to blow all of that by going with a small 3-foot piece. But you're saying as long as it's just a small piece of this RG8X, it's not going to have a significant impact.
No. And if you're not good at putting those PL259 connectors on, you can order those pre-made, in like 2-foot or 3-foot jumpers, factory made.
Okay, good, great. I'll do some research.
Perfect. Sounds good. Looks like Troy in the chat here also suggested the LMR400 Ultraflex. Let's see here. A little 3-foot run of that there. Yeah.
Those are cool. I've never seen those.
I think I'd cheap out and still go with RG8X.
Yeah.
Besides that, you can go down to HRO and go buy it off the shelf.
Nice. Perfect. Yeah, cabling can get expensive long runs, but in these short runs, yeah, it's pretty easy to bear. Perfect. All right. Anyone else? Topic of cables, or we were talking about duplexers and diplexers earlier. Let me know.
I got a cable question while you're on it.
Please.
Yeah, this is Troy, KF0AFQ. Hey, I am looking to borrow a set of crimpers to get some connectors onto LMR400. I'm in Metro Denver, just wondering if anybody had a crimping tool that I could borrow for a couple of days.
Yep, I had brought that up just a little bit ago.
Oh,
sorry, somebody was going to go. Yeah. All right, no worries. Nope. Gotcha, perfect. Okay. Yep, I brought it up earlier. No worries. Yeah, I was asking that people can bring it up on here, on the Ham Learning Net groups IO. Yeah. Kind of on that, yeah, I mean, if you have cable crimpers or different meters or different tools you can lend out, there are always people looking for tools to use. So yeah, in this case, AFQ, KF0AFQ is looking for an LMR400 crimper. So if you've ever had one before, I know I have a RG something, but it was just a regular for cable TV coax. I don't think that would work. So yeah, let us know.
HRO has an LP coax crimp kit for $90. I don't know if they would let you borrow one with a deposit or something. You could always ask them.
It's a decent question. I did kind of poke around. I was probably a little bit shy with them and didn't ask totally directly, but I was asking, if they would install on a set of customer supplied coax, or if I could do it in their shop, and nobody took the bait.
If you buy a $2,000 radio, I'm sure they'll do it for you.
Yeah.
I feel like I did that.
Oh no. Yeah.
There is a little bit of a warning. LMR400 from Times Microwave does require its own crimping tool. You can't use one for RG8U or other common cables.
Yeah, I did hear it was a separate die that it needed, but some of these crimpers that'll take different dies will, if somebody has the die set, maybe they have it. I'm in one of the off-brand LMR400s. I think mine's from ABR Technologies, if I'm getting it right. But It's the LMR equivalent that I bought from HRO.
That may not require the special times microwave stuff.
Yeah.
Actually, if you kind of look at it, you can see how close it is. If you look at the center conductor, official times microwave, the center conductor is aluminum copper cladded. It's got copper on the outside, but it's aluminum on the inside.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Ron, I dropped a link in that shows the specs on this one that HRO has, and it says it comes with 2 dies, and it'll crimp LMR400.
Maybe since no one has one, I should buy it and rent it out for $5 a week. Let's see if we can get catching fish that way. Yeah.
$20 a crimp.
Right.
Maybe it's worth checking into the one of the local hacker spaces. I know DenHack.
Yeah,
oh, go ahead.
There's the Denver Tool Library.
Oh, the Denver Tool Library as well. Exactly. Yeah, let me bring that up here.
Yeah. And then that podcast, 100 Watts in a Wire, they have a traveling tool bag that you can get, that's full of stuff, including crimpers for LMR400. And the deal is, you get it sent to you, and the only cost is you pass it, you pay the shipping to pass it forward to the next guy. But they're all lower 48, so $15 maybe, $20. But quite a tool bag. It looks like it's just. I nudged them to get on the waiting list, and it's 12 weeks or something. So.
Gotcha.
That's
Gotcha. Yeah.
It sounds like it would be a terrible expense to start off with, and you'd want to recoup your money by renting and all. But the truth of the matter is, you're in this for at least 10 years on your license, and things like that, and Anderson power pole crimpers, you're going to use them again and again and again. So if you spread it out over the 10 years, that $80 ain't much.
I think I like where your head's at, Tom, because I kind of been thinking about that too. I'm like this is because first of all, I love having the right tool for the job. That's a lot of fun to have it, and so I kind of want to do that. And then at the same time, I'm like, but aren't we supposed to be super cheap as hams? So I got to go find this thing somewhere. I can't buy it. I got to do this as low cost as possible.
If you're into doing antennas, for example, you're going to be using it a lot. If you actually have a place where you can run, unlike me with an HOA, where you can actually have cables outside, you're going to be making them all over the place. Yeah, $8 a year for your license.
Right. Okay. Yeah. It's a good point. I'm one of the guys not complaining about the increase in license costs either for that reason of look at it over the lifetime of the hobby. So okay, thank you, Tom.
Of course, bear in mind, I'm 66 and I just bought a life membership, so I'm never going to get my money out of the ARRL.
Good one.
Oh, cool. Very, very cool. Yeah. Just be just aware if you guys do have tools and you're willing to lend them out. People have a need for it. So.
Yeah, if you scroll down there, Daron, it'll show the die crimp sizes.
Okay.
And there's probably more info on that manufacturer's website.
It's available here if you want to go get it. $90. Okay. Yeah, and there was one other thing there that Troy had mentioned. I can't do anything here. The Denver Tool Library. Oops. Let me see what's going on with the keyboard. Yeah, the Denver Tool Library, if you go to denvertoollibrary.org, they have some just fairly common equipment that you can borrow. Let's see if they have a list here. Let's see. Yeah, they have an inventory, and then yeah. So if you're doing any carpentry, woodworking, you got sanders, routers, millers, electrical, cleaning, floors and walls, carpentry again, more garden, outdoors, ladders, metalworking, safety. So if you ever are needing to, I guess, get some equipment rented out, there is, I think, a cost. It looks like it's $100 a year. So that's just an option there. denvertoollibrary.org. Okay. Anyone else this evening have any other comments, questions so far you'd like to bring up? Anything we've spoken about so far? Anything else?
Put another link into a better article by Tate about using a duplexer.
I see that. Yeah, I'm bringing that up here. So a little bit of a different takeaway. The kind of obvious advantage of using a duplexer is that we can transmit and receive with only one antenna. Space on towers and base stations side of premium, this is a real advantage. Single channel systems where there's only one transmitter and one receiver use of a duplexer. So they can use a duplexer so they can share a common antenna is straightforward choice. When multi-channel systems, several transmit receive channels are considered, it becomes more complex.
It's like there's a little confusion in terminology. I think most hams would call the cans that you'd find at a repeater site, they'll call them a duplexer. But according to the articles been thrown up, they prefer the name diplexer for them. Although I don't necessarily agree with that definition. I think a lot of the definitions that they talk about, they're talking more about circulators, which would be like for a radar system.
Well, I think a diplexer is a pair of bandpass filters in essence, and like you say, the duplexer is more of a circulator.
But of course, when you're looking at what you find at a repeater site, those lovely cans that everybody loves to tune, those are bandpass, band notch filters.
Exactly.
Gotcha. Okay. I know we had, let's see if I can try to bring this up here. We were removing one of our repeater sites. I know we had some good photos of that. Let me see if I can find that here. All right, anyone else on that while I'm bringing this up here, or anything else you'd like to bring up, please let us know.
So the diagram shows the transmit side of the bandpass filters on a diplexer. What about the receive side? Does it not? Does it pass the receive side to both radios, and it only does the filter on the transmit side?
Well, I think it assumes you're not going to be transmitting on both at the same time.
Right. But as far as the receive side, does if you have two radios set up with a diplexer, one UHF, VHF for matter of discussion, does the receive signal go through both sides of it, but it only filters on the transmit side?
A diplexer will filter on both transmit and receive.
So but I think you need to think of it. I think you need to think of it as like almost like the analogy would be to a diode, to where when you're transmitting on one on the VHF side, that signal is not going to filter back into the receiver on the UHF side, and vice versa.
So would a diplexer, if you were to buy one, would you buy it based on there being a UHF and VHF side?
Well, that's what I have, but
Okay.
But I think they're also saying that you can get diplexers if you're working like on HF. You could buy a diplexer that would allow you to use one antenna while operating on 2 different HF frequencies if they're far enough apart.
Okay. So you could have a 20 meter and a 40 meter diplexer.
I think you'd have one diplexer that would allow you to operate on that separation. And I don't know how those things are sold or spec'd. I've never looked into them.
Okay.
Most diplexers, including the ones that you can get from our Chinese friends that are little, they do not have a notch. They're a bandpass filter. They tend to be used mostly for one radio and 2 antennas. One radio that's VHF, UHF, and using 2 antennas. That's the most common use for them. MFJ also makes them, and those aren't little cans. They're actual bandpass filters, coils and capacitors and all the rest of it.
All right, great conversation here. Yeah, I was just bringing up. We have a video of our antenna move that we did from the in the St. Anthony Hospital, and we have this this circuit duplexer here, and this is. Let me see, what was this for?
I just dropped a link in a guy telling about how to make your own diplexer. It's pretty interesting.
Yes, that photo was the for the 447825. That was our setup there. Yeah, if you want to get into making a diplexer yourself, certainly a lot of options here. This is the math. This is the science behind it. Well, very cool. All right, anyone else on anything we've spoken about so far? Anything else you'd like to bring up? Let us know.
So Craig, assimilate all that and come back and be our diplexer expert.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, give me a week and I'll be right back. I appreciate your input. This gives me a path to follow.
We'll slot you for a presentation in August.
Hey, Doran, is it possible for me to present my screen?
Please.
We set up?
Feel free to. Yeah, just go ahead and present. What you're seeing is just through my camera. So yeah, just go ahead and present now. I know it should come up.
All right, hold on. I'm going to see if I can...
Just don't make yourself a cat.
Can you see my screen now?
I can see your screen. Yep.
So this is a question. I'm a beginner, a newbie. So this is a question. It sounds like there's a lot of knowledgeable people here. This was an antenna switch that I guess designed or built, and I was wondering if the experts here could look at it and see if this thing makes sense or if they see any glaring problems with it. But the reason, you can kind of see the antenna is coming to the top, the red being the center node. There's 2 switches in this box. They're double throw, double pole switches. And my intention with this was that I could have one antenna feeding 2 radios listening at the same time. One would be an SDR on my computer, and the other one would be my handheld radio. And if I ever wanted to transmit on my handheld, I would just flip the switch to disconnect radio 1 or disconnect the SDR so that when I transmit, the signal wouldn't kind of overload the SDR. The signal would just kind of go up straight up to the antenna.
So it's a 3-position switch.
It's a 2-position, but it's a double throw, double pulse. So the switch, if you kind of see in the diagram there, the back of the switch kind of has 3 terminals. The center terminal, when you flip the switch in one direction, the center terminal kind of makes a connection to the top prong or to the bottom prong. But the switch is either one or the other. It doesn't set in the middle. So in the diagram here on the left side where it says disconnected, you can see the switch is thrown one way. So the radio 1 center wire is actually just being grounded out, and it's not making a connection to the main antenna going up in the attic. While on the right side of the screen, that switch is in the connected position. So you can see radio 2, the center wire makes a clean run all the way up to the attic, but does not make a connection over to radio 1.
Couple of things that you may want to think about is, first off, building that, and I think you're talking about doing this with VHF, UHF, is that correct, rather than HF?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. You could introduce a pretty nasty impedance bump there, so you have to be careful about that. The other thing is, why in the world would you ever, assuming that radio 2 is your transceiver, why in the world would you ever ground it? That is the quickest way to discover that you need a new radio. I don't think you want to have it grounded at any point.
Yeah, I agree. I certainly wouldn't want it grounded and then hit the transmit button. I guess the reason I put that in there was really just to when I disconnect a radio, to truly disconnect it was what I was thinking. I thought I never saw a switch like this anywhere, but when I saw like simple coax, like kind of a switch back and forth, where you have like an antenna switch, it always seemed like the center probe, when you flip it to the A side, it kind of made a clean run to A, but at the same time, it grounded out B. And when you flipped it to the other way, it did the opposite. It grounded out. So that was kind of my...
Yep, that actually makes good sense, but normally you would have the antenna hooked to where you have your radios, and you want to be able to ground your antenna.
Okay.
Because a wire outside, you get some rain, you get some good wind, you can build up a pretty nasty static charge on it. So they ground that to keep that down.
Oh, okay.
So when you flip it, something you may want to think about kind of doing to cheat a little bit, that's not cheating. It's doing it the right way and also doing it cheap. Go on to MFJ's website and look for their antenna switch. Not that you have to get it. That's the one that they were talking about with the pan adapter and everything.
Yeah.
Go look at their device. You can download their manual. It will have the schematic in it. Now, it really would be unfair to actually build it off of their schematic rather than buying theirs. But if you look at it, you might pick up some ideas of how they are using the relay in that thing to switch stuff back and forth.
Okay.
So it's something to look at as a sample.
Sure, yeah. No, that's a good idea. I mean, certainly from a learning point to understand. Like I said, I kind of diagrammed this out by trying to piece together bits of information I found on the internet. But that was the other thing. I wasn't really sure. I mean, I actually have built this, but I've never transmitted it with it. I guess I've been afraid to actually transmit. I can certainly listen to both radios, right? I can listen on my handheld and on the SDR at the same time. But I've never tried actually transmitting, like flipping off the SDR and transmitting, because I wanted to figure out a way to test the SWR and to test the impedance of this to make sure it's not going to cause so many problems.
Doug, I dropped several links into the chat that shows schematics for various coax switches and also some information about lightning arresters. You may want to think about having a lightning arrestor in there somewhere.
Great, great. Well, thank you very much. I know we're running to the end of the time here, but thank you for looking at this diagram for me.
Perfect, no problem. Glad we could.
Daron, I'm going to hop out and get a cup of coffee. I'll be back in 15 for the meeting.
No problem.
If everyone help me remember to start the recording when the meeting starts, I'd appreciate it.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right, yeah, we have about 15 minutes until our meeting starts at 7 p.m. So anyone have any other comments, questions, anything you'd like to bring up for this meeting, let us know. Otherwise, it might be a good time to take a little bit break. I can certainly bring up some things here that sits in the chat. Let's see, to go ahead.
Hey, Doran, it's Bill Thomas.
Oh, yeah, go ahead, Bill.
I just wanted to try doing my screen share stuff here to make sure I can get it right for the meeting.
Go ahead, please. We'll let you know.
Let me try a couple things here. I'm not quite sure what. Okay, looks like this should work here.
Yeah, we see a whole lot of stuff up there. Very cool.
So let me also just bring up my, that's part of my remote station console.
Yep.
It's actually two monitors, and I'm actually going to scroll from the left monitor over to the right monitor. And assume you're seeing all that.
Yep,
okay.
You see both screens.
Good, good. Now let me see if I can bring up the presentation. Okay. So do you see a full screen slide there?
I do see the full screen slide there. Yep.
Okay. Well, it's working. So I don't know. I'll either leave this up, or if you want me, I'll just go off of share now. I know it'll all work. So
yeah, no problem. Either way works.
Okay. Unless someone else wants to put something up on the screen.
Mine is being shared through my camera. So if anybody wants to continue seeing my perspective for the next 10 minutes, you could just click on my name and pin me up on the screen, or select the three dots at the bottom right, select change layout, and change it to spotlight, and it should bring me up for the next few minutes here. Okay, let's see what else we got here. A couple questions in the chat here. Toby, there's a Google group, or the Google we're referencing. I know that the meeting you're on right now is what the only kind of Google thing we have. We have a groups.io page, though, if you ever are interested in the past nets for this kind of thing. But the only Google thing we have is just this Google Meet here. And Ben K1 MBG was asking about wanting to use SDR radio and same antenna. Oh, perfect. Yeah, Toby, that's yeah. Let me paste the link in here for you. So Ben was asking about basically what we've been speaking about kind of most of this evening here, trying to use an antenna switcher here. This DC to 160 megahertz antenna, share 100 watts, SDR transceiver switch TR box. Yeah, so this is probably kind of a knockoff of something you can buy at a ham radio outlet, something very, very similar. Let me see if I can bring that up on here, because it may not be too much of a price difference. We were also talking about that MFJ. Let's see, the Duplexer. So in regards to what you're looking at here, that may not be, it should work, but you may want to just probably get something a little bit more name brand. But good question there, Ben. Okay, about 10 minutes here. I can bring a couple things if we need. But anyone else have anything for the last 10 minutes or so for the meeting here? Over this last weekend, there was RM Ham has their RM Ham University, but they had their Nerd Fest 2021. So they had some presentations that took place online, and they have some YouTube videos of all of them. So if you have any interest in, they did some talks about some internet-based things, some broadcasting software, logging applications, 501c3. So rmham.org for more info, and then you can also find them on their YouTube page. It's Rocky Mountain Ham Radio. You should be able to find them. Some geological news. There was an earthquake that took place in Japan recently, February 13th. But apparently it was an aftershock from a hurricane in 20... or from a tsunami from 2011 here. So just kind of interesting, earthquake from 2011. So interesting how from 2011 back to 2021, they felt a 9.0, I believe, or 7.1 potentially. So interesting news.
Well, wasn't the 2011 one the one that took out Fukushima?
Yeah, that would have been Fukushima. You're right. Yeah.
And I think this one just had a landslide. There wasn't any tsunami associated with it this time.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yep. So, kind of interesting how that that works.
I dumped in the MFJ switch for SDRs and transceivers, and it's got a sensing circuit so that you don't actually have to have a transmit out on your transmitter and your transceiver.
Thank you. Yeah, I dropped the link there. Tom had the MFJ 1708B -SDR, so automatic sensing transmit and receive switch. So that's probably a really good option there instead of that Amazon one because it's not too far off in price. And this you should be able to buy at ham radio outlets. So very good call there. Yeah. All right, neat. Anything else? Anyone wants to bring anything up? Last few minutes here. Oh, and Jeff, I was listening to a podcast called Abroad in Japan podcast. Just a pretty relaxing podcast about a guy that lives in Japan and his co-host Pete Donaldson. His friend Pete had brought up what three words though. It's kind of interesting. I mean, kind of talking about emergency services and tsunamis. Jeff had brought up this what three words a while back, and it is a initiative to allow for geospatial awareness. If you don't have GPS or without GPS, you can use three words to equate a unique a 3 meter square world. So pretty interesting product, and just brought up randomly in a podcast I was listening to.
Yeah, so there's lots of applications like a trailhead. They can put in the what three words, and if someone needs to call 911 and they can't send their GPS coordinates, they can give the call taker the what three words. They can go into a link and determine what their location is. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah. All right, let's see here. I don't have too much more. Always good sites to read. Hackaday.com here, talking about a top article here on gentleman James West began 40 years at Bell Labs with world-changing microphone tech. So a pretty interesting article on history of microphones. Most well-known invention is the Electret microphone, although MEMS microphone have seen a dramatic rise as smartphone technology progresses. Electret microphones still sit atop the throne of low cost and high performance when it comes to capturing audio. Surprising about this world-changing invention is that the collaboration with co-inventor Gerard Sessler began while James West was still at university. The final version of the Electret springing to life at Bell Labs just 4 years after his graduation. So a pretty interesting article here on that.
You can get a charge out of it. I'm sorry. That was...
Let's see what else here. A few more minutes. RTL-SDR.com. If you're interested in software-defined radios, there are these $30 to several $100. At least I have a photo of them here. USB devices that we've been kind of talking about here. So this is just one article, one blog that puts together a lot of articles and relates to that. So again, kind of what we're going to be speaking about this evening is W0TX and the different. This article is about Q65 is a new weak signal performance QSO mode. So pretty interesting article on that. Yep. If you have any let's see here. Yep. Ben talks about the Great Scott Gadgets, the HackRF. This is actually a local company, and they have a transceiver, the HackRF1, for a few $100. 1 megahertz up to gigahertz transceiver. I don't know how much wattage it can output, but I think it's low power.
About 10 milliwatts, and it's the dirtiest signal you've ever seen in your life.
Gotcha. Okay. Huh.
There's one sitting right there, I know.
Okay, gotcha. Yes, you might as well. I mean, you can also use a Raspberry Pi as a transceiver too. I think that's kind of quick and dirty option too. So interesting. Yeah.
You can get all sorts of interesting software for that, to use the HackRF to do things like listen to someone's fob for their car and then replay it.
Yes, yeah. That's people have been able. We can listen in on these, and then you can just retransmit back what you listened. So yeah, you can with a car key fob unlock somebody's car with something like this. Kind of scary. Yeah.
This one is only half duplex. There's also a line that's full duplex.
Oh, is it? Okay.
And I think the 10 milliwatts is when you're like at 25 megahertz. I think when you get up to the gigahertz, it actually makes it all the way up to like 100 milliwatts.
Okay. All right, we are nearing the end of the Elmer session here. A minute or so here, we'll turn things over to our club president, Jerry Vilhauer, to cover any club business, and then we'll have our turn it over to Bill, W0TX, for the club meeting. I guess to wrap things up here, you can find more info. We also kind of represent the Learning Net on Wednesdays at 7:30, and you can find more info on that if you go to the W0TX webpage, select the top here, and then you select Net List. Scroll down to Wednesdays. We have, it's a little mislabeled here, but it's groups.io, and then we also have a YouTube page, so you can find more info on the past nets that we've had, as well as if you want to check into the nets online. I am live streaming them as well as putting them online for future reference. So with that, if anyone else has any very last minute things, otherwise we'll just probably start to turn things over here.
And Daron, I'm going to start the recording, so if there's anybody who doesn't want to appear in the recording, you may want to turn your camera off and or drop from the meeting. So we're going to start recording now.